When people tell me that the book was better than the movie, I cringe a little bit on the inside. Like, I usually politely say, yeah, that always seems to be the case, doesn't it? And hope we can just move on. That doesn't mean I'm not interested in the conversation about adapting material across media. Quite the opposite. I love that conversation, but not in the small talk sort of way. I don't want to hear that the film cut your favorite scene, or that the musical version of your movie changed your favorite character, or that the TV series of the comic book you like totally missed the point of the original text. There are probably some good These are all probably some good reasons why the adaptation did not work for you. There's also a good chance it's mostly on you that you didn't like it. You experienced the original work and you came into the new one with expectations. And it makes it hard to understand why changes were made, especially when those changes were to elements you were fond of. It's not to say that adaptation isn't bad, the one that you saw, but it's not necessarily because of the changes. The changes have to happen because the media are different. You can do things on stage that you absolutely cannot do in film. You can do things on film you cannot do in novels, and you can do a ton in novels you can't do anywhere else. If you're creating a story, the first question to me is never what's it about. The first question is always to me, what's the medium? Same goes for adaptation. You have to prioritize adapting to the medium before adapting the work itself. This week's film, Perfect Blue, is an adaptation of a novel. I'm not here to compare the book and the movie. I've never read the book, but I am here to say that the choice to make Perfect Blue, the novel, into an animated film seems like a fucking great idea. Live action would give us a more realistic gore, it would give us greater verisimilitude, and probably even more critical heft. But you know what live action cannot do as well as animation? Dream life, metamorphosis, doppelgangers, optical illusions, and stylized horror. I don't know how well Perfect Blue compares to the source material, and I kind of don't care. What I do care about is artists choosing to make an animated film and then demonstrating through its entirety why this was the best possible choice. The leaps in time, the mistaken identities, the illusions, and honestly, that skipping doppelganger. I don't trust that live action. I don't trust that a live action adaptation would have worked nearly as well. A musical, oof. Graphic novel, sure, maybe, but way less immediate in terms of tension. Does it follow the book? Shrug emoji. It's a good movie because they use the medium to perfection. Hi, Cecil.
Hi, Jeffrey.
What's a book you want turned into a movie?
The Bible. What? Huh?
We've done that in bits and pieces.
You know, I read the New Testament half. I'm only halfway through, so I don't know how it ends.
Okay.
So don't spoil it for me.
Have you gotten to the part where you learn who Jesus's father is?
Oh yeah, no, that's on page. That's on like page 10 or something.
Oh, that's right. That's an early reveal.
This is more the like he's kind of like a plucky upstart communist with some really weird ideas about property ownership and like what you should do if you have like two shirts. I think things are going to go really well for this kid.
The one that I was just thinking of that's unrelated to, obviously, like, it would be nice if Welcome to Night Vale, a novel, were made into a movie, but that's you know, that's selfish. Just thinking about books that I had nothing to do with, you know, related to this week's friend that we have on the show is Suzanne Clark's Piranesi is a book I read a couple years ago that I don't know that you could do it really well as a movie, but I'm very curious. Speaking of which, we don't have a guest for this week's show, but I did find a fan of Piranesi. I found a novelist, a podcaster, a historian, and an old pal living a long way from home. I found us a Janina Matthewson. Hi, Janina.
Hi, Jeffrey. Hi, Cecil.
Hi.
I do love Piranesi.
It's wonderful.
Like, how would you even do that? Interior world would be so hard.
Yeah.
It's sort of like crumbly, leaky, you know.
You would have to do something really, really weird with it.
Yeah.
And I still haven't quite forgiven the adaptation of Susanna Clark's previous novel, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which was, a lot of it was very good, but they cast Mark Warren as the man with the thistledown hair, and it should have been Ben Whishaw. Should have been Ben Whishaw.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but to think about that book when I was watching Perfect Blue this week, because I just thought about what I love about animation that's so great, which is why Miyazaki is fantastic, is the way that you create surrealness and dream logic and things like that. And Piranesi has a little bit of that. Like, you have to hide things from people, and you can do that in animation in a way that you can't quite do in live action filmmaking.
I have to say, if you enjoyed the dreamlike stuff in Perfect Blue, you really need to watch Paprika.
I know.
It's all, yep. They seem to go hand in hand, don't they?
They really do. They do. Paprika is amazing as well. I think I like Perfect Blue a bit better, but they're both. I mean, I like every Satoshi Kon I've seen, but yeah, they're pretty special.
Janina, you've seen this movie before. Cecil and I have not.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch. We own the Blu-ray. I've watched it. I don't even know how many times.
It's what an odd comfort film to return to.
Yeah, what do you feel like doing tonight?
I
do you want to
usually go
watch
for
some existential dread?
I mean, who doesn't like that? Especially living in a cityscape in which you like look out your window and there's like 25 people looking into your apartment.
I live on the ground floor and right by the street. Like literally, sometimes people yell at me through my windows to try and find the door to our building. It's horrible. I do not recommend it. I know everyone says that like it's better for the environment if we all live in densely populated cities and leave the rest of the world for nature, but I just don't think it's good for the psyche to be this piled on top of each other.
I think you should make a website, which I'll explain you all how computers work later, but you should make a website called Janina's Room and really just like keep us updated on the minutia of what it's like to live on the first floor of a flat.
Yeah.
Be like, side door, man. No.
Yeah. A lot of idling
buzzer.
cars directly outside my window,
I was not prepared for a lot of things in this film, but not anachronism, but like the time capsule of 1997. What's a website? There's even a moment where she sees the word email and is like, email?
And Male.
My favorite is when she hears the word internet and she's like, oh, that's that thing everyone keeps talking about.
And I realize that this character is probably 22 years old in 1997, which makes her exactly my age. So it is just very strange to think of like, oh, I didn't really think about this as my generation, but I think I was like 1994 when I got my first email address.
Okay.
So yeah, it makes sense. And it was all brand new. Like I was one of 5 people I knew that had an email in 1994. All right, well let's start at the beginning of this film, shall we? Which begins with Powertron.
Every time I forget that's how it starts.
Powertron special attack. Which is Power Rangers, basically, right? It's a live, it's not just Power Rangers, it is a live stage production in like a public park amphitheater of Power Rangers. And an audience just sitting dumbfounded at how stupid this is.
Yeah, it's like an outdoor version of the kids shows you see in the mall in the school holidays.
Yeah. They're like, this is dumb. Bring on Cham. Bring on the Cham.
And then we get Cham. And Cham is a
name. What a name.
It's in capitals as well. So I assume it's an acronym, but I don't know what it's supposed to stand for.
I don't know. Like it doesn't have the little period, it's not like chud.
That's true.
It's definitely I kind of love it though. There's a few instances in which like later when she goes shopping at KCC and I was like, oh, KCC's got the best deals. This idea of like they just like I don't know, just pile some English letters on top of each other. That sounds like a word. Let's go with that.
The wiki fandom page for Perfect Blue does not have an explanation for what Cham stands for. So it's just Cham is Cham, as Shakespeare once said.
Charming Ham as mother.
Yeah.
Cannibalistic humanoid.
Anime mavens.
That's it. So it's a trio.
Yes,
I noticed immediately about this trio, which is not unlike a lot of like pop girl bands and boy bands, is that everyone kind of looks alike.
It's interesting as well being idols, because pop idols in Japan are not the same as pop groups in the West. Like, it's not like stardom at the level that you would like that the Spice Girls would have or the Backstreet Boys would have. There are just loads of them everywhere at varying levels of like success. All I know about pop idol groups I learned from Terrace House, because every so often one of the cast on that show is in an idol group, and they'll go and watch her perform, and it will be like 12 girls who all look the same and are wearing exactly the same thing, performing to it like in a little black box theater to about 100 men. And it's not the level of a like celebrity that we associate with pop stars in the West, I think. And it's not the level of money either, anywhere near.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think this movie does a great job of kind of like the pop idol thing, the actress, like it just the entertainment industry from like soup to nuts. This film is like scathing. They're like, oh, maybe this is not so healthy for the brain health of the people, especially the women involved in this fucking horrible machinery.
Yeah, it's a really new, and like I always wonder if the entire creative team male, which is the case with Perfect Blue. I'm sure how much of it is me projecting when I feel like they've done a good job of this stuff, but it does seem like a really nuanced portrayal of how complicated female agency is within these industries. It's really, really like deep in what it gets into and what it portrays about that situation, the difficulty of like balancing and even figuring out what it is that you yourself want and what you yourself are willing to do, because of all the mixed messages from all the different sides that have a stake in who you are, essentially. It's really, really interesting.
I definitely took note of going back to what you're saying about the pop idol sort of industry, Janina, in Japan, because it really took me by surprise how small the audiences were, like how small the venues were. It's not just like they only sold 1,000 tickets to an 18,000 seat arena. This was like a neo-futurist audience, right? Like, oh, great, we got 99 people tonight.
off Broadway.
Off Broadway. And I think I sort of learned that from this movie. I sort of gathered that as this went along. I also think that the use of doppelgangers in this movie is really fascinating. It's one of my favorite horror tropes. It's one of the creepiest horror tropes to me, that you have another person. They kind of play it into multiple personality disorder a little bit in this movie, but ultimately you're seeing another version of yourself like exist tangibly in the world. And they set that up so well with this girl band, right? Like that they all kind of have the same type of look, which comes into play later. It's not, we complain a lot about this show in like early 80s slasher films where like Tracy, Todd, Tina, Tammy, Timmy, and they're all like blonde-haired white people. And so I'm like, well,
and you're like, somebody's getting murdered and somebody's going for help, but Lord knows if I know which one. I can't figure it out.
Yeah. And so and that's usually feels like that's just done by sort of accident, because we're not paying attention, or cynically because they're basically saying people are replaceable and they're just all going to get killed. And that this one is definitely making a point with how much they look alike, which I found really cool.
But their choreography is tight.
Yes.
I don't know about y'all, but I was like at home I was like, oh, what? Am I learning new moves from Cham this week on Random Horror 9? Because
your new TikTok dance craze starts here.
So let's talk about this Mania. We'll learn is his name, but this is our creepo. This is our stalker character. This movie, so I'll say in the show notes, like the number one content warning of this film is it is about stalking. And we've got a guy down in the front row who is filming this concert. He is up close. They have drawn him as scary, right? Like this is a really scary looking person, which is kind of interesting like the more we talk about stalking and sexual harassment, sexual assault in the 21st century, oftentimes we're kind of getting into stalkers aren't necessarily trolls. They're not necessarily like chud, underground dweller types. They are the frat boys. They are the good guys, that sort of thing.
They could be insurance adjusters who live in Iowa. Like they could,
They could be super handsome and still be absolutely terrifying.
I mean, I saw Don't Worry, Darling. I know how this whole thing works.
I just want everybody's response to Don't Worry, Darling to be my experience of Don't Worry, Darling.
They're like, they made him look ugly. How did they do that? But ugly people do bad things. That's how the world works. I mean, it is a very anime.
Totally.
Like it is a pretty but I mean, I love, there's so many misdirects in this movie, and that is one, in that we see someone who has like a very kind of like asymmetrical face. He's got the classic like hair over one eye that never moves. I found the scariest thing about him is that he's a security guard for this concert. So he's definitely like, he's part of the machine, the Cham machine, the Mina machine that's going on, but he's on the inside, which is going to make it even harder to root out what the fuck is going down once that machinery starts breaking apart.
Yeah.
Which is also accurate, right? Not that necessarily that a stalker would become a security guard, or they might, but that like positions of law enforcement tend to attract people who want to control others or believe they have a right to control others, which is why, there's so much domestic abuse amongst cops. Like that's it. It's not surprising when you think about what that job involves, and security guards are like not dissimilar. Not all security guards, obviously.
I mean, Paul Blart would have quite a few things to say about this. But that, I think, like this whole opening sequence, the idea of, we're talking about sort of the size of the audience. The actual fans going to this is not huge. Like it's well attended, but really it's the sea of photographers. It's like the machine is like this like Ouroboros snake eating its own tail. Like the actual people there to enjoy it are like, there's like those three dudes who are super fans. And then everything else is like people who just sort of wander in, hooligans who like to cause mischief, but really it's paparazzi. It's, people out to be like, what's your favorite color? Like kind of like keeping these for pop magazines. Fresh with fodder.
It makes me think like the closest analog I think in the West. I used to do a little bit of entertainment journalism, and which was all part of this machine that I think of as the Love Island to influencer pipeline.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because it's this industry that promises attainable fame to very young people and then eats them alive. And it happens over and over again, and it's still marketed as this thing that you should want and that you can get. And I found it really interesting. And I think that's closer to what's happening in this film than like more craft-based celebrity in the West, because they have so many little wee tiny industries that are around pop music that we don't have. But yeah, that's the closest parallel I can think of.
Cecil,
it's the same. It's like feeding the photographers who then feed the magazines who then feed you. Yeah,
and there's a manager at every level getting a cut. There's a publicist at every level putting this person in front of this person.
Yeah, and it's the image more than the act that matters. Like there's this one line where that really stood out to me a little bit later on, where the male manager who she works with just says something like, it's really important that she proves that she can seem to be an actress. It's like, it's not important that she proves that she can do it. She has to appear in that realm as someone who makes sense. It's about how she's perceived, not what she can do. Which highlights it all.
Yeah.
The all of the photographers and the machinery of the fame, the industry that chews them up, spits them out, sort of thing. I do find it interesting. See, so you brought up those three fans, right? Like not the stalker,
no,
but just the three fans, and they're kind of not quite a framing device. They're more of a
Greek chorus.
Yeah, they're a Greek chorus. Yeah, that's exactly what they are. But I do find it, I found them interesting as the movie went on, because I started realizing this isn't as full bore as like Michael Haneke, but it is, let's put this on the audience. Because it is essentially saying, you're these three boys. That's who you are. Like you,
to some degree, sure.
To some degree, yeah. But you're part of the machine as well, because you're consuming it. The point of this movie is not the meta refrain of, by watching this movie, you are consenting to the content of this movie, which is kind of the funny games thing. But it is throwing it back to you, and in some ways, that's what the Greek chorus does too. The Greek chorus is like, "We are you."
Oh, we moe. Lo, Oedipus has come to perform at this mall in West Tokyo. We are here witnessing the birth of Mina.
Oedipus is not a bad callback either, because we got some eye gouging in this movie.
Gosh, yes, we do.
We do on our to-do list for today, our honey-do list. Please gouge some eyes with a screwdriver.
Please clean off all the screwdrivers once you go on your murder spree. Because I don't want to be making any birdhouse and be like, did you use this last night? This is still sticky.
It's like that bit in Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe where Aslan's like, you always have to clean your sword, but your screwdriver.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the correct thing to do.
It's etiquette.
Now, I have to say, one of my favorite shots, like I knew I was in for a ride because, this movie is so highly rated, but the moment in which our stalker is sort of like, does this thing where he's like holding out his hand and Mima is doing her lead singer dancey thing in this, perfect, like icon, well, I would say absolutely a capital I iconic look of a dress.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like dancing in his hand like a little music box.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, we are in for a fucking ride, because this is like 5 minutes in, and I was like, already we are establishing so many ideas of perception, ownership, of capital. Like, I mean, there's like the levels literally go all the way down.
Yeah.
Just in that one shot, just in that one little shot. And I instantly knew what this character's motivation was. Theoretically,
yeah.
Whether or not he's the killer, debatable, but I knew who this stalker character was.
Yeah.
From that one scene on, and everything else just supported that first shot for me.
Yeah, and it comes off the back of after you've heard these three like talk about their feelings about the band, and they're disappointed that she's going to make this big announcement at this tiny concert, and like it gives you the impression immediately of the number of people and who feel some sort of entitlement to her, and the degree to which that is true for at least some of them. Like there is, from the start, you feel that she is caged in this world.
Well, she's going to try and make the leap to acting, so she uses this opening concert to announce her retirement after 2.5 years from Cham. So she's going to go home, and she gets back to Mima's room. She gets back to her little flat, and first thing she does is she takes the giant Cham poster down off the wall, rolls it up. So sad.
I love that we rolled ordinary people or normal people on the dice. And that was kind of how we got to this. And this was like chef's kiss. In just how terrifying everyday life can become.
Yeah.
Even though we're dealing with the heightened world of celebrity, but it's not that. It's about shopping for goldfish food and buying milk and having to throw away your stuffed animals. And, it's like the interiors of this film are stunning. Like the sets, are so chock full of personality, and the way her room changes as her temperament changes over this film is stunning.
Yeah. It's kind of a coming of age film, right? Like she's moving from
yeah.
childhood to adulthood, and like it's about all of the people who are trying to get in the way of that for her.
I also really adore the chopping up of time, and in this movie. This is a thing we can do this in live action. We do it quite a bit in masterful ways, and I think this movie is top notch at keeping you not fully understanding where we are in time and not
Mhm.
fully understanding whether or not something was a dream, whether or not something has already happened. We have a couple scenes with Roomie later where the exact same scene
Oh, I love
repeats,
it.
and it gets to its third time, and you're like, I do not know. Are we just playing dream within a dream? Are we
Yeah.
imagining this? Oh no. Then there's a line that suggests, no, this is the same thing that happened yesterday.
She's
too.
like, I haven't seen you in forever. And she's like, I was here yesterday. Was that yesterday? Was it? Was it,
Yeah.
Mima?
Yeah.
Please help.
And the shopping at the store is such,
I love it.
one, it's beautifully animated, it's beautifully drawn, it's beautifully framed, but the shopping at the store kind of sets up the thing of like, she is ordinary people. She is a celebrity, but she rides the bus. She goes to the price chopper. She gets her fish food.
Thank
Yeah.
you,
And
Boston.
and she
You go to the price chopper, you know, you got to get your bento box. I don't know what that was.
and she
And she's able to do all these things unnoticed, right? She's not famous enough to be recognized in the street, except by photographers. The one time people in the street call out to her, they are paparazzi.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting as well.
So she's she's coming down from her big day of retiring to move on to actressing, and she gets a heavy breather phone call, and then a few moments later a fax that is just all like ransom note type writing that just says traitor all over the fax machine. She also,
and I love what,
oh, yeah.
and also like in the transition, like in the crowd sequence, and there was a kerfuffle that happens in the thing in which like the rowdies are, you know, trying to cause some shit, and her supposed stalker breaks it up. So he's like, well, look at me, I'm like,
I'm a hero.
Babe, I'm doing the thing that I'm proving my love. Why don't you love me?
Bodyguard. Yeah.
Like you gone and crushed my dreams of, but I love it. Like there's a lingering, like as it cuts into this sort of home sequence, someone's like, I'm always watching Mima's room. And she kind of hears it, but it's here and then gone. And then as soon as she finds that fucking website, I was like, y'all, I had to take a little cigarette break and sort through some of the days in which like I would log on to Facebook and Cecil Baldwin had made a Facebook request to Facebook me. And I'm like,
it's prescient, right? It's very
Huh?
prescient about the way the internet would change the way people related to celebrities. And
like when people would get on Twitter and be like, this isn't the real Chris Hemsworth. Yes, it is. No, like, is it? I don't know. Like, if you just throw out as much crazy information, anybody can make a website called Mima's Room. It doesn't necessarily have to be Mima, but for the person who is the actual person, the creep factor of reading about your life, even if it's fictitious, is so icky. It's just like there's nothing like it. And this movie, like I think Prescient is like the correct, like absolutely it has its finger on that.
Yeah. I think the reason it's so creepy, I mean, part of it obviously is that it makes you very aware of how much attention people that you do not know are paying to you.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit creepy. But I also think there's an element of like, I think everyone walks around trying to bury the awareness that we can't control how we're perceived. And we don't really know if the version of us that's in someone's head, even if they're the closest person to us, is accurate, or the version that we would want to be in their heads. And we all try to ignore that reality because we can't live with it, because will drive you in, like, quite literally, I think, a little bit mad. And then, so it taps into that as well, into the weird public ownership that happens with celebrity. It's a very, very sort of volatile combination.
This website, Mima's Room, the one thing that makes it even more creepy, beyond just the fact that somebody is writing a fictitious diary of you, is that it's pretty accurate as far as the tangible things that you did. That I bought Tetra food at the price chopper, right? I bought milk, I bought eggs, I bought this magazine, whatever.
I bought the fancy milk because I needed a treat.
Yeah.
I stepped off the platform with my left foot, and that made my whole day tumble into disaster. And you're like, what the fuck? Did I?
Oh,
Because I don't know about y'all, but I am not that self-aware throughout my day all the time.
no.
Yeah.
And there's so many moments later in which like this idea of like, how is this person getting all this information about her? And as Mima sort of like her, you know, her like knitting starts to unravel, let's say, and she's like just willy-nilly running through the streets of Tokyo from herself or from whatever. And I was like, can you imagine if like I wonder how this was, you know, these moments of breakdown were seen by Mania. You know, like there's no acknowledgement that he sees the sort of havoc that he's inflicting on her, you know?
Yeah.
So she is she's been cast in a very tiny role, like a one little line.
I think that is the Kimchi.
Oh yeah, let's pause for a second.
You guys can do
I'm sure.
He is cast in a tiny role as a plate of kimchi. You have one line, don't fuck it up.
I was like,
Who
oh,
are
let's
you?
let me pause for Janina to
The kimchi's
make her
like,
point.
who are you? You've been cast as a talking bowl of kimchi
That's right.
on
Welcome
Double
to
Bind.
welcome to our new segment. I think that's the kimchi.
I think
It's a
that's
new
the
game
kimchi.
show where we determine which one is
Yes.
kimchi. One is a bowl of milk. One is a hot dog.
I think, Jeffrey, we should just start every podcast record by one of us orders one item on like Grubhub or Postmates. So we know it gets delivered during the show.
Perfect.
And then the other one has to guess what the other person ordered from Grubhub.
Just by the sound that the chewing makes. Yeah. When you said I think that's the kimchi, I think that's a good title for a game show where people are blindfolded and they have to determine which is the kimchi. Is it this bowl of ice cream, this hot dog, or this kimchi?
Or this kimchi.
Kimchi would be really good on a hot dog, actually.
Oh, yeah, I bet it'd be.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Phenomenal. Okay, so let's see. Reset. So Mima is cast on this crime drama called Double Bind. And she's got a tiny little part, just one little line. She just says, "Who are you?" which is a perfect line for this character to have to rehearse.
Just repeating it over and over. Who are you?
Yes.
Who are you? Who are you?
That is her quest throughout this movie, is for herself, is that question. And so we also meet, we've met Roomie, who is her manager. And we also meet Tadakoro, who is her agent.
Yeah.
Roomie is a woman, you know, maybe 30s, and is you know, as we'll learn later, is a former pop idol herself.
Oh, is she? Oh, I didn't catch that.
That's what I grokked from it.
Oh,
that's what I was picking up from that. Tadakoro is more like kind of like 40s, 50s, tall, very man.
Yeah.
Cigar and they work for they belong to the same company. It's like an idol company that manages and represents a lot of different artists. So it's not like I think nowadays where you might have an agent at one agency and then a manager from somewhere else. It's a united business.
Yeah.
And she is their business.
Yes.
I found it really interesting that she's, you know, she's making this leap from pop idol to actress, but she keeps the same representation.
Yeah.
Which I was like, those are different industries, my dudes. You know, and I do love, and once we get into sort of the double bind, the like sort of the actress, model, pop idol, like all these things, like essentially, if it's been the plot of a giallo, like murder mystery, it's all kind of the same. It's like, oh no, a stable of beautiful models are getting murdered one by one. A cast of an opera company are getting murdered one by one. But really, these are different industries. Like is Justin Timberlake like have like an acting manager and a music manager that's like the same like it just seems
I could see where you would have the same manager.
Eggs one basket is what I'm saying.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. I definitely know at least where how it works for me and Joseph. Like we have a literary manager a literary agent who then co-agents with a TV film agent. So when we sold the rights to Night Vale to TV,
Because books and TV are different things.
yeah. But there is still a thing. I think the reality of this, where it kind of gets the gist of it right, is that our, so for me, my literary agent and my TV film agent work together so much, so they kind of are in business together, even though they don't work for the same company. So it's like, when my novelist gets turned into a film, I'm going to pass her over to you or whatever. So it does make kind of sense that these people would just kind of be in the same place and watching the start of her career to get her going, because they stand to make a shit ton of money off of her if she becomes the next big TV star.
And
a lot more than when she's an idol.
Right.
And it's also important to note that that Roomie is very disappointed in Mima by going the actress route.
Yeah.
Like she has like very sullen face of like, well, it's her choice, but you moved to the city to make it, in the Coyote Ugly version of this,
Yeah.
You moved, you started, you didn't come here to be a barback. You came here to like, do this thing. But she kind of, she's like, okay, but you know what? That's her choice. I'm going to be a super supportive friend and totally not drug her and put on her wigs when she's not around.
On set, Tadakoro brings a big stack of fan letters to the lead actress who plays the doctor and investigator on the show.
She's like Marissa Haggerty.
Yeah, she is.
Like she's totally like, I was like, oh man, this episode of Law and Order SVU is going to be lit.
I want to see Double Bind, because this is a police procedural, but it also is like there's some spirits at work, some kind of possession happening. It's awesome. So, but one of the fan letters that got delivered is to Mima, and Tadakoro, because Mima's on set, opens the letter, and it is a letter bomb that blows up in his face. And it does not kill him. It just it is merely a flesh wound.
But it's shocking.
Yeah, I think it hurts his hand. I think it's just his hand that gets hurt by it.
Yeah, and like maybe his neck or something. But it doesn't look like a flesh wound.
No, there's a decent amount of blood.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also the letter, there's like a kind of a close-up of the letter, and it's like some of the readable words are, "This was a warning, the next one will be real." Which again, like, obviously this is all a choice to like, Mima is just like, there's no friend in Mima's court.
Yeah.
But the fact that legit no one is reading any of this, no one is taking any of this seriously, no one is listening to her at all. And they're like, and not only that, but except for the psycho killer, but even like, her agent is like, it was probably just a prank. You know how pranksters be pranking.
Yeah. Classic pranksters always sending letter bombs.
Yeah. I think dismemberment goes beyond pranking into like assault. Like, I think we're entering felony territory here.
Just a little dismemberment, just casual.
Just a fun fan prank. Just a little spider surprise.
Makes me think of a friend of mine many years ago when my first job out of college. It was April Fool's Day, and I asked my friend Scott if he did any April Fool's pranks, and he just kind of deadpan was like, "Yeah, I love April Fool's. I slashed my neighbor's tires this morning. It's gonna be funny when he finds that out." And it was just this realization. It was the first moment I had really thought, like, prank culture's terrible because it's so bad. So she. Yeah, Roomie. I think it's also telling, Cecil, when you mention that Roomie kind of blows this off like prankster. It's just a prank, but as we'll learn later, it makes a lot of sense why she blows this off, why she is so caring for her in so many ways, but at this moment, is like, yeah, whatever. No need to investigate. It's fine.
You don't worry about it, darling. You just worry about your line and being the best actress you can be.
Yeah. We kind of get, this is the middle of this film. This is where I mentioned earlier how we kind of layer time, place, reality all on top of each other. And we're seeing repetitions of Mania on the set wherein she's trying to do her line, trying to do a thing, and then she looks out, sees him, and just like her brain just goes into cloudland. And when she turns back, he's gone. I think one of the most effective to me in this is she's coming into the film studio one day and she gets onto the elevator, and taped to the elevator wall is a news article about a man who was run down in a hit and run accident. And the photo of the man is one of those hooligans confronted by the creep in the opening scene. And as the elevator doors are closing, she sees Mania standing right out on the sidewalk. Absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
So Tadakoro is working his power angles to get her a better part. He wants to move her up. Like, she only has this one line. Let's develop this character.
Yeah.
Hey,
she's
listen.
like brought in as the sister of one of the murder victims in this.
Yes.
It's not quite a procedural, I don't think, because it doesn't seem to be case of the week. It seems like a show that's following one serial killer over multiple episodes. But apart from that, yeah, it's very recognizable crime drama.
Yeah.
And she's just meant to be, the sister of someone.
Yeah. And the writer of the show, the head writer, I guess finally says, hey, I've got a great idea. I'm going to really ramp this up, which gets back into the series of men making a bunch of decisions about what to do with this very cute, young, impressionable pop idol. And he writes a bigger scene for her where she becomes more involved. And that bigger scene is she's a dancer. She's a stripper, basically, that in the scene in the TV show within this film is basically harassed and raped on stage.
Yeah.
And so that's what we've decided. And Tadakoro is very much like, it doesn't matter. It's great. It's more visibility for her. And Roomie is like
an example of like the what happens to people who become famous when they're young. Like, this is the Disney kid arc, right? Like the pressure to do something super adult to prove that you're not a kid anymore. And how that super adult thing is always something sexual. Like, it's never like you get to sing a song about the trials of paying your taxes. It always has to be that you wear less and you start, having red lipstick instead of nude lipstick. And it's very stark and striking every time it happens. And it is that. But what I find interesting about the scene as well is that, and I think this is reflective of the fact that, stripping is a way of women owning their sexuality, right? Like, there are set rules about it, about what patrons can do and can't do, and the women are generally at a reputable place, at least in control and in charge of those interactions. And you can see that, and she's performing, she's acting in the scene, but you can see that in her demeanor. Up until this point, her gaze is almost always down. Like, her face is angled down the whole time. And this is the first time we see her with her face angled up. She looks confident and in charge, and it just is really striking. That's the first time we see her like that. And it's because she's filming the scene where she's going to be absolutely have her agency stripped away from her again. Depressing, but accurate.
I also thought about the loneliness of, if Cham and the girl group is kind of a middle school fantasy, like an adolescent, like it's just me and my girlfriends. And, like when I feel blue, I've got my girls to back me up and cheer me up. So like, it's that sort of thing. But the idea of becoming an actress is solo. It's just you, which really isn't that what maturing into adulthood is, when all of a sudden, you're kind of the things that you loved and the posters that you loved as a middle school student, as you kind of enter that high school at like true teenager pre-adult phase, you kind of have to stand on your own. And it's so lonely. And I found it really interesting, her relationship to the sort of the idolization of the adult actress.
Mhm.
And I kept waiting for the adult actress to be a character that kind of noticed Mima's literal mental breakdown over the course of this shooting. But it's so fascinating how kind of distant she is, this other actress.
Yeah.
And you have to wonder what the fuck was what was her ascension story like?
Well, it also makes you wonder because we see everything from Mima's point of view. So we see this mess of time and this mess of perception and what's reality and what's real. And when they get to the point where they've finished shooting and everyone's like, yeah, great, you did a great job. So it's like, how is that a statement about how we are able to hide what's going on inside of us so much better than we think? Or is it about how little people are paying attention to her and what's actually going on with her? Or maybe it's both, but it's really interesting how suddenly you see everyone thinks she's fine. Everyone thinks everything is normal. And this has been going on for weeks, maybe a couple of months.
And also how we don't know, I mean, upon first viewing, we don't know how much of this is happening in real life and what is necessarily in script on Double Bind. Because there's a ton of moments in this sort of second act in which, you know, I had to be like, wait, that's definitely the actress, but they're talking about the character in the script, which is Mina, but it's dealing with Mina's actual real life problems. And it's like, it's mindfuck upon mindfuck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's, you know, so perfect that the job she has is actor, right? That it is about the many layers of who are you, you know, that just, you know, we you know, we've talked to, I think we've mentioned this on the podcast before, but it's something I always come back to, you know, when we talk about like the neo-futurist chair exercise. To me, it's just this idea of the only thing you're supposed to do is walk on stage, sit, look at the audience, sit in the chair, go off stage. And it makes you, when you do that exercise, it's not interesting to watch. It's not really that interesting to do. But when you start thinking about what changed in my performative behavior as I entered the area I considered to be the stage, like, when do you know people are watching you? And just a conversation is a form of performativeness, even if it's with a longtime friend or family member or spouse. And so I love the layers of reality that are happening, that this film has created a stylized layer cake of this shit. And it's so good. Even in this rape scene on the TV show, when the man is on top of her and they yell cut.
This is one of my favorite moments.
It's a great moment. But the first thing, because it's so graphic, it's so tactile, it is so physical of grabbing, the way he's grabbing her, where he's grabbing her. And the way his hair hangs down in his face, he looks like Mania from a side shot. And so
and
there's
they've started this scene as well. I think that this is important. We don't see her walk onto the set and start acting. The scene starts mid-shot when she is in character. So the whole thing unfolds and you don't remember or don't completely remember that this is a scripted scene she's acting. It's like it plays with your perception of what's happening in a really clever way.
And at the end of the cut, the man finally lifts his head and you realize he's still lying on top of her while they're like resetting cameras. And you realize it's not Mania, it's just another actor. And he goes, "I'm so sorry."
Yeah.
She's like, "No, you're fine."
And then of course she's like, no, it's great. No, it's great. Like that idea of, oh man, that idea of putting, you know, this woman through this like really horrible experience in front of a set of mostly men, and that nobody, like, they're just like, no, just stay there. Just no, I know it's uncomfortable. And she has to like be all smiles.
Yeah. Which is such a thing when you're a young actor, like the pressure, the unspoken pressure to just kind of be game. Like you have to be up for everything. Like and it comes from all sides, right? The biggest moment that's happened to me when I was at drama school was a female director who just basically said that you couldn't be taken seriously as an actor if you weren't willing to do nudity. And that sort of attitude is like, everywhere. Like, if you want to be taken seriously, you have to be willing to do the rape scene. You have to be willing to do nudity. Everything has to be on the table, and you don't get an option, because if you say no, you're difficult, and you can't be difficult as a woman in the arts. That's absolutely not an option.
And especially in public, like a set is a public place.
Yeah.
But even Tadakoro, like when it's just the two of them, at one point he's like, you know, you should smile more. You're so much prettier when you smile. Actresses smile. And I'm like, dude, there is literally no one around.
Yeah.
If she's in the back of the car and she does not, clearly her life, she does not feel like smiling. And she certainly doesn't feel like smiling for you.
Right.
Yeah. No matter how many congratulatory you survived your first rape scene dinners he's going to buy for her after the set.
Yeah.
This movie makes me think a lot about how we now have most film sets and TV sets have intimacy coordinators for
same.
this very reason. So at home.
Yeah, what's going on? Explain to me how the internet works, Jeffrey.
Okay, well, I will say that this is a couple things happen in this next scene when she gets home. It's just, this is kind of the first moment where it's not, we've already seen like confusion of time and reality a little bit, but this is the first moment where we think she might actually be not seeing the world as it is. Yeah. To this point, I think we're not allowed to see the world exactly chronologically, but this is the first moment where we think she's not seeing the world as it is, because she gets home and all of her fish are dead. By the end of the scene, they're not.
Or some of them are, but some of them aren't.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's just this moment where she gets home and her fish are dead, everything is wrong, and then this is also where her image in the mirror starts talking to her.
Oh my god. Like
and
mega mima.
Yeah.
Pop star, true capital P, capital S, pop star Mima.
Yeah. She is berating Super Mima. Mima 2 is berating Mima for, like, you could have stayed a pop star and you didn't. And look at how miserable you are. You've ruined it. You've killed these fish because you did nasty things. You're a dirty, nasty little girl, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But she and she's seeing more on Mima's Room, the website, about talking about how she feels dirty about doing these terrible, terrible scenes, but also how she blames the screenwriter. So even then, it's like, now you're putting words in my mouth that risk my career. I could get removed from a show for taking down Japanese David Simon over here, right? So
who I also love, like, has no idea how this TV show ends. Like, he is literally writing pages the night before.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. There's a line that, like, this movie is one that it will, Janina, I completely understand. This movie will only get better with multiple viewings, I feel.
Yeah.
But I'm like remembering these lines. It's like when the screenwriter says, "Oh, I have an interesting idea that's going to blow their minds, but I need to talk to Mima's manager if it's okay."
Yeah.
And then cut to, all of a sudden, the cop drama is now legit about Mima's life. It's about stalking. It's about, multiple murder. Like, it's uncanny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't have used David Simon. I should have done Damon Lindelof, because this is a person who's halfway into a series and doesn't know how it's going to end.
You're like, I don't know, smoke monster?
Yeah. Oh, we need it.
Polar bear? Not Penny's boat? I don't know.
So now our screenwriter arrives at work. He comes into the studio parking lot.
This scene is so creepy.
This scene is so woof.
This is where you're like, okay, this is a thriller, an anime thriller with horror elements. This scene is straight up a horror movie scene.
Yeah.
100%. And he is in the parking garage and he can hear faintly some song from Cham playing.
Yeah, it's the use of that song.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's like a creepy fairground music if it was like Japanese pop, and it becomes so terrifying as the movie goes on.
Well, and as we learn, like, Mania's relationship to Cham, it like listening to the lyrics, which
Mhm.
sounds so like pretty bubblegum, like love and light come to you.
Yeah,
You're a
that's one of the
perfect
things that really
person.
stands out because I've watched it. I've watched the subbed version and the dubbed version.
Oh,
And the
wow.
dubbed version, you kind of don't notice it as much because it's just like music playing in the background. But when the subtitles are on and it comes up line by line, it's like very chilling.
Yeah,
It's like talking to this loner. You know, like you really get that kind of Unabomber, Son of Sam, like, oh, this lyric was written for me. And it's like, it doesn't matter what you look like. There's a perfect love for you kind of stuff. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, you begin to understand how this insane dude thinks that he is like receiving heavenly messages from Mima.
Yeah.
But it was in that scene. It's when like you sort of you only see like 3 of the lyrics rather than it's just like, you know, pop song.
Yeah.
And it's when it's playing in this car park that I was like, okay, we need to take another look at what these lyrics are and why this song has like triggered this dude to like do all this. Spoiler, he didn't though.
Mhm.
But he does, but he does, but he doesn't, but he does.
He's a red herring. He's not a red herring.
He's not, yeah. He did make a website. But he's okay. So we're in the car park. There's the song playing. At his parking space, there's like a poster for Double Bind that's like covered in blood.
Mhm.
And man, the use of the elevator in this is stunning.
Yeah.
Because it's like he hears the sound coming and the doors open and it's just like a little CD boombox. And it has that like blown out shitty speaker sound.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like when you turn you buy like a $15 speaker and you turn it all the way up and it just distorts anything beautiful about music.
Yeah.
And then next scene, doors open and he is eyes gouged out, covered in blood, doors close.
Yeah.
I love the pace of that moment as well. Like the slowness that the doors close back on his dead body is just it's beautiful.
It's
And
so
it's that-
good.
Jeffrey and I talked a lot. Like one of my scaries that like really gets to me is places made for a lot of people when they're empty.
Yes.
So
yeah.
things like office buildings, car parks, things that could, you know, like at 3:00 in the afternoon would have 600 people in this office building.
Yeah.
But at 1 a.m, elevators are going up and down with dead bodies in them and no one is there.
Yeah. I used to, have to work at a cinema that was in a mall and I was on closing frequently. And yeah, it's scary.
Yeah.
So now Mima gets a photo op with this basically Maxim magazine sort of thing. Like it's more nudie than that.
What is that? What is it in England? It's like a page 6 girl was like a thing.
Page 3.
Yeah.
Page 3, yeah.
Listen, when I did my semester abroad in the UK and I was like, wait, you all just, this is just like on.
Just at the newsstand?
What the fuck is wrong with this country? At least in America, we put it like we
in
put a
the
little
sealed
bar.
section.
Yeah,
or
it's like if you pick up a Playboy, you know what you're getting. I'm not like I'm looking to check like whether the water is coming back on in my neighborhood and some boobs.
You're welcome.
But there's a it goes from taking very like sexy dressed shots to okay, let's get the top
It goes
off. Now
from
let's
intimate. It's like, and it's actually really kind of gorgeous. This like she has this fresh girlfriend, like wearing her boyfriend's oversized shirt, sipping a cup of tea in bed, like, and it's very intimate. And you're like, oh, if she was not at the shit center of a shitstorm, she would actually be killing this job.
Yeah.
And if she wasn't, but sure enough, as we've learned from kind of her ex-Cham members, they're like, oh, she's doing a shoot with that guy. Well, he's known for getting models.
Yeah, this appears to be the Japanese Terry Richardson, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And he does. By the end of it, she is like fully doing like Playboy spread. Like
Yeah.
she's fully nude, lying on the bed. It is gone from
Intimate.
it's gone from intimate to softcore porn.
Yeah.
And so we've also got her double showing up again. And the thing that
Big Mima. I like Big Mima.
Big Mima, yeah.
Fantasy Mima.
Fantasy grandma. When Fantasy Mima shows up, it is absolutely John Carpenter's scoring. It is that John Carpenter keyboard horror. It's Halloween. It sounds like the Halloween score anytime she's there, which is it was such chef's kiss. I loved it
with like a
so
little
much.
bit of Tangerine Dream mixed in.
Just
a little bit.
But we start seeing now with so Big Mima, Mima 2 is dressed in the Cham outfit, like she is in the kind of like the stylized girl pop outfit. But also not only is Mima seeing her, but Mania is talking to her, where we get the scene of him working on her blog, and she's there leaning over him, being like, I'm gonna be the lead in Cham again. I'm gonna go back. So he's got this like idealized version of what she should be, which is the lead of his favorite pop band. He also, this creepo also he goes to the record store and buys every copy of the magazine that she shows up nude in, just to keep it off of the
he snatches it off another customer who's looking at it. And
in another very anime move, it's very like hair down to the face, and you can just see him like shaking with anger. Listening to the Greek chorus of kind of normal boys being like, whoa, this is really racy. I wonder what, and he's like, smack. Very, very anime.
So let's talk about Cham and how they're doing right now. So Cham decided to move forward as a duo.
But this is where I was like, this poor fucking girl. Like, her face is still on the cover of all the magazines. Like, it took me a minute to understand that she hadn't been replaced by a third, that they're going as a duo. And they say this. They're like, oh, Cham is going to a duo. But her voice is still on the radio. Her face is still on the magazines. Cham is being like, and so it like this scene was just like kick me in the feels, because she goes into, like it's a bit like Dreamgirls, this scene, in which is like, she's Beyonce and she's going back and she's like, I just wanted to wish my besties good luck. And what she's seeing is pop idol fantasy Mima in the room, and pop idol fantasy Mima, her hallucination, is taunting her, saying, you got to go. And this is, I think, so this idea that she's done the work, she sang the songs, she made the thing that is being packaged and produced and sold, and yet she has no ownership over it.
And this is where we learn also that, or maybe we learn, time doesn't matter, but we learn at some point that now that she isn't in the band and they're a duo, their latest song has charted. It's the first time they've ever had a song on the charts, and it's presumably her vocal on it, but she doesn't get to celebrate with them because she's not part of the band anymore.
I know, so she doesn't even get a slice of the cake
for
the thing that she helped produce. Fuck this. And then on top of it, her like internal vision of her pop idol, like self, is now gone from like, let's say, disapproving to like, fuck you.
So she sees herself in the radio studio doing the Howard Stern show over here, and but then she goes chasing after herself.
God damn.
Through the halls. And the way
these sequences are so scary.
It's such a choice, and it was such a stunning choice to the way that Double Mima moves.
It's because terrifying.
Like the most anime.
It is the most anime.
Like I read somewhere that Darren Aronofsky bought the rights to like maybe turn this into a feature film, a non.
There's a lot of weird rumors about the Darren Aronofsky
really?
thing, whether he plagiarized this movie, because he uses a shot from it point for point in
Requiem for a Dream, right?
Requiem for a Dream.
Oh,
Yeah.
And then he's denied that Black Swan is based on this, but it.
But
we know he saw it and loved it, and then it's very
yeah. But I mean, the point I wanted to make is everything up till now has been like, okay, like ordinary people, like we could be shooting this on the streets of Tokyo. I would love to watch this film. But when we get to this middle act with like pink Mima, fantasy Mima, like
Skippin' Mima.
Oh my God, float dancing through the streets in like gleeful delicate torment, like what are these words that I'm even saying? Like it's impossible to describe how menacing the beauty of this unattainably perfect fairy creature is.
Yeah, it's kind of like a distortion of that trope where you are being chased by something that is so confident it's going to catch you that it doesn't need to run. So it's like the It Follows thing, right? Thing is just walking towards you and it's not bothered because it knows it can get you eventually. It's like a twist on that because she's skipping like a child and floating through the air, and she's smiling and she looks like a little girl on her birthday, and it's terrifying.
It's like there's a Tinkerbell quality to it.
Yeah.
But like pink Tinkerbell from hell.
Yeah. The she goes chasing after this thing. It's getting a little bit not quite violent, but like tripping downstairs. You know, it's like minor injuries
out into
traffic. It's very scary. There's a moment where Skipping Mima tells her, I told you.
That's my favorite 90s band, actually, Skipping
Mima. Yeah. I told you I'm the real Mima.
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
And as real Mima is running through the city streets, she looks up and there's a giant van coming right at her. Again, gonna see this image again because time, what is time? But driven by Mania, comes right at her, and then suddenly she wakes up and she's back in her room.
Was it a dream? Did it happen? What is time? There's
reality?
another. I think it may not be around here, but it might have been earlier. But there's another one where it's when she's having a panic attack over Mima's room. That's like when she's like she knows every single fucking move she's being made is being watched because it's being blogged, and she kind of
it's like down to things she has this weird moment. This nice little moment when she's on the set of the TV show where she just says, I love this actress. She's a different person when the characters are on. She's so good. And that exact line is then in Mima's room. And she said it very quietly to one person in this crowded room.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much. There's a scene where she gets up from the subway and, she catches 20 versions of herself in a sort of Panasonic Circuit City kind of
TV,
thing.
Yeah, TV window thing.
Oh my God. And I was like, this movie is doing everything for you right now.
Yeah. So our photographer, our Terry Richardson character, gets a pizza delivered one night, and the pizza person shows up, just like throws the pizza on the ground, and all he says is, "Yeah." All he says is, "Man, you're a weird pizza guy." And I have said on this podcast before that I don't, thinking about all of the movies, mid 20th century films like Psycho, right, where we're just trusting of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Sure, we'll pick up a hitchhiker. Sure, I'll stay alone as a single woman in this motel run by a man in the middle of nowhere who seems.
Let's have a little chat. Yeah.
To be fair, Norman Bates is extremely charming.
He's very charming
and very cute as well.
Yeah. Very handsome man.
But my statement has always been that I don't believe that red flags were invented until the 1990s. But this photographer did not get the message because nothing about this creepy pizza guy's delivery technique is setting off any red flags. And the next thing he knows, he's got a screwdriver in his eye.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
what's
But this is
interesting
also the first time we see the face of the pizza guy, and it looks feminine.
Yes.
Like it has that sort of like 12th Night boy drag kind of look.
And when he is finally getting chased down and stabbed to death in his office, it's straight up Mima stabbing him.
Straight up Mima. Yeah.
But then, and during this, all intercut during the scene are the shots of Mima's naked body from that photo shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then suddenly Mima wakes up. But it is in the news that photographer died overnight, stabbed to death with a screwdriver. And Mima
sure enough, Mima's room, the blog, has been like, I love going shopping in Harajuku district. I went to KCC and bought these clothes, and whoops, those clothes are now covered in blood and in actual Mima's room. Not Mima's room, but actual Mima's actual room.
And then she's got a knock at the door, and when she opens it, it is just press, like leaning into her house, like, we want your comment on this, blah, blah, blah. So now we're getting into real scenes that are repeated, real scenes from the TV show Double Bind that are also real conversations about Mima's real life. And it's so confusing, but also relaxing. I think it's harder to explain than it is to understand, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I think the moment that sort of like, and I don't think I'd actually ever noticed this bit before, but there's the moment where it cuts to a scene of her essentially in a hospital room, and the actress, the lead actress from the show, is saying, she thinks she's an actress and that everything that happened to her was just a part she played in a show. And they ask her name, and she says, my name is Mima. And then we see it play again on like a monitor, and she doesn't say Mima. She says the name that is obviously in the script. And which is really interesting as well. Like, what is happening in her head is not what is coming out of her mouth in that moment.
And it's like she says,
which I think is the only bit where they do anything to sort of clarify what, like, the difference between her internal life and her external one.
Yeah.
So one of the things that comes out in this scene is in the script, but we also see it as this is what's happening in real life. According to the TV doctor, Mima has dissociative identity disorder, or sometimes called multiple personality disorder. And so, which I took as some variation of real, right? That's what's being used by Roomie against her. But yeah, that's kind of the thing that we're sort of understanding here. I also think there's something to what you said earlier, Cecil, which is that maybe it's just straight up she's being drugged by her too, because Roomie does come over for tea a lot.
It's that tea and cake sequence.
Yeah, that keeps repeating.
That's repeating, and it's also because she's losing time, and she's on set, and she can never quite say the line, and she's like, I think one of the actual is like scripted. She's like trying to say this line is like a nightmare. And you're like, is this are we in the night? Is this? Are we the nightmare? Like, you know, but having seen the end and kind of pulling the threads and seeing how far back they go, it really does feel like Roomie is keeping her like drugged and kettled. So that way she doesn't know what days go by. She doesn't understand how time works. She doesn't understand reality versus on set. She feels isolated when she's on set. She can't talk to anybody about this because her team, and if you've ever worked in the entertainment industry and seen a celebrity surrounded by a team, man, nothing looks more lonely. And also, if if your umbrella holder is also trying to put on your wigs and, you know, kill you in the, like, you're fucked, man.
Yeah.
Like, those people know everything about, like, the fact that Roomie is like helping her set up her computer. You said you wanted a computer. Let me explain it to you. Here you go.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more, and I love the omission of, you know, who done it. But like, I think Roomie is actually masterminding a lot more than we actually see.
Yeah, then is confirmed. I think that's right. I think, yeah.
She's definitely taking advantage of, I think it's really interesting because when we realize that Roomie is behind all of this, that she is manipulating our Stalker character too, right? She is emailing him as the real Mima, telling her, you know, she has identified a person who can be tipped over. And it is interesting because this is so, when you talk about prescience of the way it talks about the internet and what the internet can do, when we're talking in 2023, we're talking like unstable, nice guys who are needing to find a community of people. And it is so much easier for those types of boys to rally around groups that protect them as men's rights, white supremacy, these ideas. And you can point, it becomes easy to point certain types of boys toward violence. And Roomie has correctly identified one of these people. And I'm not saying Mania is the victim here. I'm just saying it's interesting how in which there's a parallel track of abusing people's mental disorders to make them do what you want.
I mean, it's like the Facebook advertising campaign of like, do you feel isolated? Do you feel depressed? Do you feel like your world is spinning out of control? Chances are it is. Let me explain to you why it is. And here's 10 more ideas that might or might not sound crazy depending on your mental health and how long you've been scrolling on this fucking website.
Yeah. But the answer is definitely always going to be women and immigrants.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Jews, women, immigrants. Yeah. Like the usual list.
Yep.
By the way, blame all your problems on anyone else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's not unreasonable to assume that she is also pulling the strings of the writer and the photographer and because everything plays into her hands. And because all we ever see her do in relation to those people is rail against those expectations. Like, she doesn't want the rape scene, she doesn't want the photo shoot, all of that. But I think given how well they tie into her ultimate plans, I think it's not unreasonable to assume she's doing more behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Was it Roomie's did Roomie encourage the plot line on the show to start mirroring real life?
Yeah. She
knowing that as a murderer, she's going to get like, it's one step, but she's not thinking as Roomie, she's thinking as Big Bad Mima. You know, like, it's, oh man, the mirror reflects back on itself. The further she can
push the real Mima down this road, the easier it will be for her to step into the role of the old Mima.
And are we at the reveal? Are we at the wig reveal?
Yeah,
there's a wig under my wig.
Almost there. So we get to the final shot. They wrap the series.
Yeah,
everybody applauds. It's so exciting. We've got the after party going on. You know, everybody's shaking hands, congratulating. Whatever. This is going to be super cool. Mima is still behind. She is kind of in a dazed state, right? Because this is all so much. And as she is on the set alone, suddenly here comes Mania. And he has got a straight up knife. And he is there to kill her because he has been told by the real Mima over and over that you have to take care of this fake Mima so the real Mima can get back to being the pop idol that she's supposed to be. And it's interesting because this takes place on the same set as the earlier rape scene from Double Bind. His positioning of getting on top of her, well, he's also going to rape and murder her is what he's doing. So it's all kind of filmed or shot, drawn the same sort of way. But she manages to get close enough to one of the tech crew's belts. And she grabs a mallet off of that thing and plants it squarely into his fucking temple.
Well, what's fun about that moment as well is that we've seen all these moments where, like, we didn't talk about this, but the moment where the pizza guy is murdered, well, the pizza guy murders the photographer, it then cuts to her in the show because the show ends with her character as the murderer, and so there's a shot from that with her standing with a screwdriver over a dead body, and we have this moment now where she's being attacked, and she reaches towards this utility belt which has 2 screwdrivers in it, and her hand hovers over them for like a solid period of time before she grabs the hammer and whacks him in the side of the head. It's just like, it's this perfect little detail.
And it's this scene was so shocking to me. It's like noise, like it's struggle, like it's full Scream 2, end of Scream 2 struggle.
Mm-hmm.
But then as soon as that mallet makes contact, it's silent. There's no blood. He just looks shocked. She looks shocked. And then cut to Mima is distressed, kind of walking through the halls, and we're like, was he even, like, bodies bleed. Like, you can't put a hammer into somebody's face and not get icky gross. But this didn't happen. So it has this level of unreality to it.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a wish fulfillment? It's like, what the fuck is going on? We don't at this point don't know if it's her, if it's, what the fuck is happening. But we do know that the after effect, there's no blood on the set. There's no bloody hammer.
No.
When she finds Roomie, and Roomie's like, well, let's go investigate. All cleaned up.
All cleaned up.
Or it didn't happen in the first place.
Roomie finds Mima clothes shredded, just looking a mess because of what just happened to her. We go investigate the thing, and Roomie's like, all right, well, we'll get you. I'm taking you back to Mima's room, is what she tells her.
No. As soon as she said that, I was like, no. I did not peg Roomie as the killer, but I was like, please don't take me back to Mima's room.
No. It's the last place we want her to be.
But and sure enough, that visceral response to like everything in her room is now the neat, organized, innocent pink hearts, fat flowers from her fans. It reminds me, there's a lot of Labyrinth in this. Kind of the perception of like, like sort of like young girls' image of themselves projected onto their room.
Yeah.
Like and as you change and grow, your space changes and grows. And the fact she's right back to where we started this film. Danger.
When she comes to, the first thing she notices is the Cham poster is back on the wall.
Yeah,
because that is, as you said, as we've talked about, the way the room evolves over the course of the film, it's reset to how we first see it. And there's a moment where she's like, that's strange. She then calls Tadakoro, who's not answering, but we see on his end, we see some corner of some warehouse or studio or wherever, back lot, something. We see both Tadakoro and Mania.
Oh, fuck.
Dead, eyes gouged, just lying in pools of their own blood.
Yeah.
So Roomie has cleaned up. She has
she's just in the other room. Yep. Is that you, Roomie? No, it's not, but get ready.
And then Mima, when she realizes fully what's happening, is when she opens the curtains and she looks out, and we've seen this shot over and over of her looking out into the city streets. So we know her neighborhood, but what we see here is a train running by right by her window of like, this is not where I live.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like,
I didn't even realize you could do doppelgangers of place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
mean, it is. I mean, Labyrinth is an apt comparison, right? Because it's that moment where she thinks she's in her room, but she's actually in the middle of the rubbish dump.
Mr. Bigby, you wouldn't leave without Mr. Bigby, would you?
Yeah, no, exactly.
You need this. Yeah, we got to pile that on you, don't we? Mr. Tubbles, or whatever the fuck the Baron's name is.
I lived very briefly in Peter Cooper Village, which is a giant apartment center, a bunch of high-rise apartments.
Street?
Yeah, it's like 14th to 23rd
Yeah.
Street,
Oh, it's
east
massive.
of First
Yeah.
Avenue. It's massive. Stuytown and Peter Cooper Village. Many years ago, lived there very briefly. And but the thing about these are all like post-war New York City apartment buildings. Every building is the exact same height, the exact same shape. Every building, the apartments all look the same. Anyways, I ran to the store, did some errands, came back. I went into the wrong building and did not understand that I had gone into the wrong building, because it's the repetition. They're not on
Same.
streets, they're in a park. And I
Yeah.
went into the wrong building, came in with somebody else, so I didn't have to use my key on the front door. So that's where I went
no.
wrong. Went up to 5A. I go to 5A and my key's not working. And I'm panicking. And I'm just like poking my key into the door. And I can hear a television on. And I'm like, is somebody in my apartment? And then the door opened. And it's the exact same layout. The same apartment is just decorated differently. And there's an older woman who looks as scared as I do, because she just heard somebody like clawing at her front door. But I did have this moment similar to what Mima has here, which is, where's my reality? Like, did I cross through a portal?
Did you do the elevator game?
I did the elevator game. It was so scary. And I feel bad for this poor woman, because I was just staring into her apartment being like, what is going on? She says, please leave.
Oh,
and I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know where to go. Are you my home?
Are you me? Are you me in 25 years? I don't know.
I'm real. That's the last line of this film. I know who I am. Oh my God. Let's talk about this climax, because this is some epic shit right here.
Yeah.
I love this so much, because what we see again is Mima 2. We see skipping Mima, but we realize it's not fully an imagination by Mima. It is Roomie dressed in Mima's wig and outfit. And so the filmmakers now, the animators, give us dual shots, especially when fake Mima is in front of the mirror. Yeah. In the mirror, we can see that it is Roomie's larger body, older
and she's like
face,
sweating and real.
Larger body, different face, wearing a wig and this outfit.
And but also the outfit has changed.
Yeah, it's the vampy outfit for the climax.
Like same cut, but it's no longer pink.
No straps, and it's red instead of pink and white.
Yes.
Yeah.
This reminded me a lot of like that episode in Twin Peaks where they go to One-Eyed Jack's, and like Laura Horn has to like dress up, then like maybe like kind of flirts with her dad a little bit. Like it has that like, it's so frilly that like I feel like this is the perception of like what men dress women as to be like it's that thing of like, no woman chooses this unless you're like this is not
it's a 5-year-old's birthday party dress.
Yeah. But in blood red, in crimson red.
So she comes at Mima with the screwdriver. I also, at this point, I'm like, is this an ice pick at this point? I think maybe, I don't know. Anyways, we get into a full like fight and chase sequence. This is an action sequence. We've got choking, knock the ice pick out of her hand, go running, tumble off of a fire escape into a pile of trash bags. At one point in time, the ice pick / screwdriver gets knocked away, and double Mima, Roomie grabs an umbrella, a very sharp umbrella. Apparently.
Very sharp umbrella.
Like,
Japan makes them fierce.
Yeah. I love this is one of my favorite horror tropes, like a la Laurie Strode in Halloween, of like, there's people all around, but no one can help.
Yeah.
Thing. Like they're just on the other side of the glass in a restaurant, but can't hear you. You're one floor up. And that to me is like, having lived in a big city, there's nothing scary, especially Washington, D.C. was the worst.
Yeah.
Because you would just turn a corner and it would just be office buildings for blocks. Yeah. And not a single soul on the street. And I was like, if I'm going to get mugged, I at least want to get mugged where there's like a chance that
that someone will help you.
Yeah. But like, it's the pure quiet that is like, again, large spaces made for lots of people that are totally empty. Addendum.
Big city anonymity.
Like addendum. If you can see people, but they're beyond helping range.
Yeah.
Fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
Love the overlay of, because we see again the skipping Mima thing, just the way she glides, the way she's so like slow
Perfect.
predator. It follows Mike Myers,
She's
whoever.
perfect.
She's perfect. But we see her reflection in like an office facade window, and it is Roomie huffing and puffing and sweating like full sprint trying to keep up. I think the most brutal moment here, there's in terms of the gore physical violence that happens, is we get to the scene where like they crash into a window, they shatter this window, and then we have the moment where Roomie gets her wig snatched, right? She gets her literally
Hashtag wig snatch. but it's in that moment, it's so real because she's like sad. She's sad.
She's
like, it's not screaming maniac. It's like she becomes very real and very human in that moment, because she can't bear to face her own self without fantasy Mania. God, there's so many words floating around right now. But I like in that moment, oh God, like it's fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah. I mean, she's distraught. Like it does genuinely feel like a piece of her reality has been stolen from her. Like, and she can't deal with it.
Yeah.
And so much, in fact. She is going for that wig and does not notice getting garroted through the gut.
That's
by
like
a massive shard of glass.
Of glass right under the sternum. I just I'm still wincing just thinking about it. Like this.
And it's
it takes its sweet time as well. Like
it's slow. And the fact that she is looking at her reflection in the shattered glass that is killing her and it's like this sort of like, fractured image of her with the lipstick and the perfect Mima hair again. And she's so happy.
Yeah.
That is the trap. Like, like 10 out of 10 stars, like 10 out of 10 endings.
Yeah. And then she stumbles out into the street and sees the headlights of a truck and takes them for stage lights and does a beautiful pop idol pose.
Oh my God. This is like Japanese pop idol version of Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
In which like this character's
she's ready for a close-up.
Loose grasp on reality is like, oh, the close-up. This is my adoring fans have come to wish me all the
But Mima dives at her, classic rolling dive save from oncoming traffic, and they both tumble safely. The truck screeches to a halt. Guy calls for paramedics, and we'll go into epilogue. This was I was the least prepared for this moment, I think, of anything, because one of the things that I think I'm used to in the terrible psycho thriller type of movie is that moment where the evil person gets their comeuppance. And this epilogue is extraordinarily compassionate.
Yeah.
And so what we have is our epilogue later, and we have probably years later, I think Mima is very successful as an actress.
Yeah, she definitely seems like older and more sure of it. Like she's, again, it's the posture thing, right? She's not looking down anymore.
Yeah.
She is very centered and knows who she is, clearly.
Her hair is longer. She looks like she physically has taken on what the older actress in the TV show kind of that sort of like she's wearing suits, she's like she just like it's interesting. She's graduated.
Yeah, she's a grown up now.
Yeah.
And she's visiting Roomie at this, this mental health care center. And the doctor, and she's brought her flowers, and we see Roomie looking at the flowers and just kind of obsessing over them like pop idol who has been given flowers by a fan, by a stage star. Somebody threw flowers up. And the doctor says, you know, I'm surprised you came. You know, the thing is, every now and then she returns to Roomie.
Yeah.
But it's very rare. So this is just where she is. And Mima says, you know, I get it, you know, but I come by here because thanks to her, I am who I am today.
She's like, I know who the fuck I am.
Yeah.
Because I had to fight this bitch on the street, screaming in her face, I'm the real Mima. That moment when they're fighting, and she's like, Mima would never do this. She's just like, what are you talking about? I'm Mima. Fuck me up.
It's amazing. I was so like, I was moved actually by this, because there's because it goes from like Stalker movie about Mania to the system is fucking you and that it's your manager orchestrating all of this, to these are two women who have a lot more in common than we realize, and that it is about how you decide what makes you you. And Roomie was going backwards in time, trying to take somebody else's life and return to her own youth, rather than understanding you as a person fixed in time that moves straight forward at a constant rate of 1 second per second, you know? And so I think that's the beauty of this moment, is understanding that she's a person, you know?
And I think it's about also her, it's about the need to be seen, right? Because Roomie is animated as like she's a bit bigger, and she's drawn as a bit plain, you know. She's got her, it's animation, obviously features are a little bit more basic than on a normal human face, but she's got smaller eyes, they're further apart. It's like, and she is this dog's body who takes care of everyone else. And I think that's one of the things that impacts women's perceptions of themselves, is that beauty standards that are placed upon us, it's not just that we're expected to meet them, it's that there's very little gap between being acceptable and being beautiful. Like there's just, you don't feel, you are made to feel like anything less than perfection is just you know unacceptable, and so you don't feel the danger of not feeling seen is really palpable, I think. And if you have been a pop idol, you have been that center of attention, and she's moved into this space where she is kind of no one, you know, it gives us a reason for her deteriorating mental health. I think that is very understandable. It's easy to empathize with her.
Yeah. And I also want to point out the last line, which is, I'm real. She says, no, I'm real. No, you're not. You're a cartoon. Like, but it's that idea of like, I'm real. She's like, I know who I am. I'm real. And you're like, no, this is like, it's yet another layer of that line would be laughable if it was, you know, Jennifer Jason Leigh or somebody saying that, you know, but as an animated film, it's that automatic unreality. And this movie which is so ordinary people, has made you forget that it's animated in a lot of different moments. And that one, it's just so, it's like a wink at the camera to be like, I'm more real than you are, and I'm a fucking cartoon.
But then it also manages to be a statement on celebrity as well, right? Because that's the whole thing, is that no one has seen her as a real person this entire time. That has been the problem. And she has had to claim that for herself, that she's no less a real person just because she's famous.
She, you know, you kill your fish. Sometimes plants die. Sometimes your best friends that are BFFs forever don't stay your BFFs forever. And that's called growing the fuck up.
Well, shall we rate this film?
Yes, let's.
So how approachable is this movie? If you are horror film averse, like, we have our Sasha scale, the Squeamish approachability scale for the horror averse. On a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is like not at all approachable, like I use Funny Games as the example for this, and 10 being super approachable, like Over the Garden Wall, just a delightful autumnal romp. I would give Perfect Blue 3 Powertron special attacks out of 10.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's in some ways, I think the animation softens the horror as far as how we're used to the normal beats of horror, but in a lot of ways it increases, like it catalyzes different types of horror that
Yeah, because
know,
it's a medium we associate with children's films, right? We're not
Yeah.
used to seeing gore in animation unless you watch as much anime as I do. And so it can be a little bit off-putting and upsetting.
yeah,
It also, like, I think including sexual violence always ramps the inaccessibility up. Like it is, and it is a brutal scene and it goes on for a very long time.
yeah,
Yeah.
and also for just the content warnings of stalking, rape, and disassociation, right? Like
Yeah.
these are three major players throughout this movie, and it doesn't just touch on them, it dives into them when it gets to those things.
Nuanced.
Yeah, and also, like, you know, Cecil texted me like last night just to say this is dark, and this movie is dark and it's very tense. Yeah, leave time for a cigarette break after a few of these scenes.
Like
you know?
you're gonna need a shower and a cigarette after this movie, but in the best of all possible ways.
Yeah. So, like, given the subject matter, it might just be like a no-go for some horror fans, depending on what we talked about today for where you are. But you know, I think, you know, I almost rated this higher because of the animation. Like, I think it softens the blood and gore, but this movie's really tense. I would say the one thing, if you're really thinking about getting to it, is animation, but also it does feel more thriller than horror in terms of, like, it's in the thriller department
It's
of
very
the horror
Brian De Palma.
store.
It's very Dressed to Kill. It's very thriller.
Totally. So yeah, let's say 3 out of 10 for approachability. Cecil, what about you as a horror film?
Man, this is a gem. I like, you know, this is a film that I have to say restored a little, kind of like level powered up my heart bar, you know.
Uh-huh.
Because, you know, you reach a point where you kind of, if you love something and you do a deep dive and then you're like, well, I've dove as deep as the dive can deep. And then suddenly something comes along that reminds you why you did the deep dive in the first place. So for that reason, fucking 10 out of 10 to go dead goldfish that you may or may not have killed. I love it. I love this movie. I mean, it's a tough watch. Don't get me wrong, but so subtle, so nuanced. And Janina, I understand why you've seen this a ton of times, because I'm not itching to watch it again, but when I do watch it again, enriched.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to watch it again to have the same experience, though, because Paprika is also amazing, and Paranoia Agent, which is a mini series, is also
cool.
amazing in the same way. Satoshi Kon, great.
Janina, do you have anything you want to add to our ratings, or a rating that you want to give it of your own?
You know what? Considering that this is an entirely male creative team, I'm gonna give it like 8 out of 10 wigs for understanding women in the positions they're in society. I think it did a really good job of some really complex material.
Allies.
Word.
Okay, let's figure out what we're going to watch next. Cecil, you have a die, and I have a die, and yours is to roll up our scare for the next movie, and mine is to roll up the style of our next movie. So, Cecil, if you roll a 1, our next movie's scare is technology. 2, vampire. 3, a lady killer. 4, creepy children. 5, something aquatic. Or 6, wild card, whatever scare we want. What you got?
3.
A lady killer.
Ooh.
Okay.
Working with the theme here.
I know. So our style. Oh, it's funny because I think this is 2 weeks in a row. Like, we had VHS last week, which definitely dealt with lady killers.
Oh yeah.
So our style, if I roll a 1, our style is giallo. 2, our style is something action fantasy. 3, it's a movie from the 1970s. 4, something with a good day scare. 5, something set in New York, New York. Or 6, a Japanese horror film with a lady killer, which we kind of just had. So let's try this out. What do I got? I got a 5. New York, New York. Lady killer.
Fun. We've got some thrillers up in here.
Cecil, you want to talk about the movies we have listed here?
Sure. Let's see what
and
we
then
have.
Janina, if you have any in mind, please feel free to add to this.
So
But what do we have on our list?
So we have Inferno, which is part of the, if I remember correctly, is part of the Dario Argento Three Mothers trilogy.
Yes.
This is and when New York, it's like a New York backdrop. This takes place in New York, and it's, some woman owns a bookstore that is a portal to hell. Whoops.
Yeah.
That also may or may not house a Mother of Sighs or Mother of Tears or one of those mothers that Dario Argento loves making films about.
Yeah.
We have the Dress to Kill, which I mentioned earlier, like
De Palma.
very much like, there's like a sexy stalking sequence that takes place at the Met. Like any respectable New York thriller. Another thriller called Sisters, which is I like Sisters a lot. It's very dream logic. It's actually very similar to what we just watched. Is like, are they sisters? Are they the same person? Is there a sister? What is happening? Why are we having dream sequences in which people are buried in sand? I don't know, but let's roll.
Now I have a question. This next film is, do we want to include this? And I can ask both of you this, and we could take, my question is, because I haven't seen this movie, is it a spoiler to say Scream 6 fits Lady Killer New York, New York?
I mean, I don't think it's a spoiler because there are too many characters for just knowing the gender to be that big of a spoiler.
Okay, great. Yeah. Carry on. Tell me about this next one.
So Scream 6, which is like one of the sort of the new reboots of Screams, sort of like it's not quite a remake, it's not quite a reboot, it's not quite an homage, it's a little bit of all of them.
Yeah. Janina, you have one of my favorite statements about film franchises. Would you like to state your opinion about the Scream franchise?
I think it is the most consistent film franchise of all time. Its peaks are not as high as some other franchises, but it is always a pretty solid fun time.
Yeah.
The floor is high rather than the ceiling.
The floor is really high. And I think like you have franchises like Alien, where it's like, Alien is way better than any Scream could ever be, but then you also have to watch like Prometheus or Alien Resurrection, and it's like they swing wildly from terrible to great, whereas Scream, it's like very, very solid
all the way through. I completely agree.
I love how we've discussed a lot of these films in the discussion of Perfect Blue. Black Swan, like here's a classic New York. Listen, toe shoes and Juilliard gives you flashbacks to Barbara Hershey is your slightly abusive mother who told you that her daughter will be perfect ballerina. And then I think I put this one on there last minute, Cat People, which is the original Cat People, takes place in New York, and it's different again, like this kind of, who am I? There's someone stalking me. Is it my own sexuality stalking me? What the fuck is happening? Am I a person? Am I a cat? Am I an immigrant? Are we afraid of all these things? Yes, we are, but also we're living for all of these things.
Yeah. Let's talk about what our Letterboxd followers said. Brave Crab brought up Fatal Attraction. Did not remember this was New York City.
Yeah,
of course it is.
I've never actually seen Fatal Attraction all the way through from beginning to end.
Oh wow. Okay.
I mean, honestly, I'm not real sad, but I get it.
Sure.
Like I've seen the clip enough to know how this movie feels. So
Martin brings up Manhattan Baby from 1982 about an archaeologist who uncovers an Egyptian tomb and unleashes a spirit which possesses his daughter. It's a bonkers Italian production, I guess, done in New York City.
Weird.
Damon Fudge brings up a couple of classics that I would love to see. Ms. 45 and
Never
Death by...
it.
I want to think that that's kind of in the... It's 1981.
Wait, have I seen... Wait, Ms. 45, who's kind of the main star of this?
I don't...
Oh, no, I'm getting... Oh, sorry.
Ms. 45, I think, is kind of in the rape revenge 1970s kind of Last House on the Left type of stuff. And then Death by Temptation, which is early Sam Jackson part. But is also a black created, black directed, written, performed piece.
And
of
it's
horror
sort
cinema.
of gorgeous succubus demon spirit. So lady demon killer.
Yeah. Couple more. Ganymede's Cup says arsenic and old lace. We have
classic.
a
Love
lot
it.
of people throwing out Ms. 45. But again, another rape revenge movie. We've been real heavy on the sexual assault and revenge
Right.
stuff the last
Like
couple of
I'm
weeks.
reaching the, you know, what was that? The fresh moment in which if I see like another rape dungeon,
Yeah.
Can I get a werewolf up in here, or
Yeah.
like, you know, like a wizard or something? Because I don't need to see any more just like pea mattresses in a basement just for a minute.
Bleak Cinema and Fifth Hammerer say Darling from 2015. Do either of you know this movie?
I've never heard
A
of
young
it.
woman slowly goes insane after becoming a caretaker in a large New York City apartment. Believing she is beleaguered by devils, she is driven to murder, hallucinations, and obsession.
Ooh, that's fun.
And Ken Burt throws out American Psycho 2.
Yes.
Starring Mila Kunis.
Mila Kunis?
Yeah.
Putting in the work.
Janina, are we missing anything here?
Not that I
I'm
can
sure
think
we are,
of.
but-
I mean, I'm sure you are, but I think there's nothing that comes immediately to mind for me.
I'll jump in first and tell you the ones that stuck out most to me that I'm most curious about. Black Swan, because it relates to today. It's a movie I saw in the theaters. I don't remember having thoughts one way or the other on it, of liking or disliking it. I don't remember a lot about it, but be interesting as a comparison. Another one that I have never seen is Arsenic and Old Lace. And it's like 1940s Brooklyn.
Amazing.
So that's a thing. Don't know how horror that is, but we
It
do a
definitely
lot
has
of
some.
peripheral
Well,
horror.
it takes horror tropes. I mean, it literally, like, this was the role that like Boris Karloff like made famous on Broadway.
Okay.
And he was like so famous that when they made the movie, he couldn't even be in the movie because it could, like, they make jokes about Boris Karloff in the movie. Like it's a comedy that knows its roots in horror, I guess.
Yeah. And of course, like Death by Temptation looks really interesting to me as well, just because it's just like early black horror cinema that we haven't covered a lot of black filmmakers on the show yet. I don't know what do y'all have any that stand out? Janina, we always love going to the guests too, but maybe Cecil, you want to talk about any that stand out to you and have Janina pull the trigger on what we're doing?
I mean, they all sound quite interesting. It's kind of funny how New York, Tokyo, lady killer like I was like,
yeah.
I feel like I'm looking at down this list. I'm like, okay, well, we just watched that one, and we watched a little bit of that one, and a little bit of that one, and a little bit of that one. So really, I put myself in the guests' hands to decide our fate.
Okay, give me a short list of 3, and I'll pick one for you.
Okay. So Jeffrey, I heard Death by Temptation.
Definitely Death by Temptation, Arsenic and Old Lace, Black Swan,
and I would throw Cat People up there.
And Cat People.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm giving you 4.
You know what? I've never heard of this film, and that's why I'm picking it. Death by Temptation.
Okay.
That sounds perfect. I love it. All right. Well, that was easy enough. We did it, y'all. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Cecil, for talking with me. And thank you, Janina Matthewson, for joining us. Janina, where can people find you and your work in this world?
On way too many social media platforms at this stage, to be quite honest with you. I'm J9, and everywhere I am anywhere. And I'm most places. Doesn't mean I'm going to post there, but I've got accounts. I started using TikTok even.
Are you in Janina's room?
I've started my TikTok account called Janina's Room.
You're like, I ate a fish today.
I ate kimchi.
I ate kimchi. Is it kimchi? What? No, what did you say? I think it's kimchi.
I think it's kimchi, our new game show.
Yeah.
If y'all have thoughts on Perfect Blue or ideas for other movies that would have been good, Lady Killer in New York, let us know on Twitter at randomhorror9, and watch Death by Temptation from 1990 with us this week, and come on back next Tuesday for a new episode. Have a restful night with no doppelgangers skipping behind you or nothing. Boo!